Observe aggressively. I will often fly great distances to meet someone face to face, even when I can say much of what needs to be said over the phone. If it's important or if it's a relationship that may be long term, I want to form impressions based on what I observe, even more than on what I hear. After all, the impression you have from meeting someone in person is often quite different from that formed in speaking over the phone. Observation is an aggressive act. People are constantly revealing themselves in ways that will go unnoticed unless you are aggressively involved in noticing them. The statements people make about themselves or the signals they give off are both conscious and unconscious. Body language, as these unconscious signals are commonly called, is certainly important, but it isn't even half the story. Most visual statements are quite conscious and intentional. The way someone dresses, the way he carries himself, and all the other ways people go about trying to create a particular impression. But these signals are only as useful as your ability to pick them up. Aggressive observation means going after the big picture, taking all these conscious and unconscious signals, weighing them, and converting them into usable perceptions. When I meet someone face to face, what I'm trying to establish more than anything else is a comfort zone, the picture frame, so to speak, or the boundaries I need to observe based on what I see and hear, which will best enable me to deal with that person. Aggressive observation does not mean hasty observation, jumping too quickly to conclusions, over responding to conventional interpretations, or reading meaning into things where none exists. For instance, when I am meeting at someone else's office, I have often noticed that people will sort of lean in to the situation when they are ready to get serious, even unconsciously using their hands to push everything on their desk a couple of inches forward. Yet almost as often, I have seen people at this same point lean back in their chairs and feign a totally relaxed position. To generalize about either, then, or to jump to some hasty conclusion would be as foolish as it would be misleading. Almost any useful observation must be considered within the larger context of the situation and what else you're hearing and seeing. Conventional wisdom says that if someone slumps in the chair, he or she is not very commanding. The converse also supposedly holds true. But how many of us have, at one time or another, dealt with the glad handler, the guy who sits erect on the edge of his chair, leans slightly forward, hangs on your every word, and then never does anything? These are often the old school, "I am glad you asked me" that types, or the too eager beavers, the young fast trackers who have already decided that it is not what they do and say, but how they look along the way that is going to get them to the top. People who are a little too erect, a little too attentive, make me nervous. Posture is also interesting for another reason. One of the most useful observations you can make about people is the relevant importance they place on form in relation to substance. There's a world of difference between posture and posturing. It bothers me when people strike a pose, when their casualness is a little too studied, or their efforts to bulk up their physique or suck in their stomach are a little too strained. The offices of these people, of how they choose to decorate them, is often an extension of this. An office that is overly cluttered with diplomas and mementos, or is obviously contrived to create a certain impression, is usually a dead giveaway. You have to be careful in dealing with people of this sort. They are more likely to be interested in looks than in performance, in appearances rather than real accomplishment. Of course, the most fertile, consistent, revealing arena for observation are the eyes. The eyes will tell you more than anything else what someone is really thinking, even when all the other signs are pointing elsewhere. Remember that people communicate with their eyes in business situations when they can't use words. The next time you are in a meeting with more than one person from outside your company, notice their eye contact with each other. It will help you determine what they are really thinking, reveal who among them is most influential, and let you know whether you are boring them to tears.